I was talking to this owner-operator in the state of Virginia.
A Virginian.
Yeah, and now it's really a bizarre story he was telling me. Now, he's in Virginia. He goes and he buys this truck, right? And I'm not sure what the reason was being that he didn't have a lot of work right away with it. But he went, took a chance, bought this truck, right? So I think what happened was he was between going to another company.
Okay, so he was between companies.
Right, and he seen this ad on, I think, Craigslist maybe?
Okay.
Or Facebook, one of them medias.
Mm-hmm.
If you can call Craigslist a media.
Yeah, it's a media.
And so the ad was a driver was looking for a truck to rent. And I'm dead serious now. And so this guy...
Kind of like what Penske does. You rent the trucks type of thing.
Right. Now, this driver, you could probably find this guy's name, but I'm just going to give you his initials, AP. This is the guy that took out the ad looking for a truck.
Okay, AP took out an ad to look for a truck to rent.
Correct. He just needed what he needed it temporarily for like 3 or 4 weeks. And he offered to pay $1,000 a week, right, for the rental of someone's truck. So this owner-operator said, okay, I'm between signing. I'll go ahead and give this guy a call. So he calls him, and they work out a deal. And I said, okay. So I'm trying to figure out why he's, calling me and telling me this stuff. I'm like, okay, so he didn't pay you, right? He goes, no. He paid. He was really good for like the first 3 weeks. Money's coming in. I don't have any worries, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, nothing. And then I guess he gets a phone call. His truck was impounded down at the border because AP was using the truck to smuggle illegal aliens into the country.
I honestly had a feeling you were going to say it was either humans or drugs. I really honestly thought that when you were saying just for a few weeks. I'm thinking,
And I guess, I think one of the ways this guy got caught, he went and took the MC number, right, and the DOT number, and covered them up with another number, or he changed the plate. One of the two. I'm just trying to figure out why he would do this. But anyways, nothing matched. So there you are, running an illegal truck to begin with, crossing the border, right? And you've got illegals in your truck. And so I think that's why they pulled this guy. So, obviously, crime doesn't pay usually. I mean, you get caught. But
eventually.
This is why criminals really are just dumb. It's just so true. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Well, he rented the tractor from this guy, but the trailer from somewhere else. He got a trailer.
Yeah, he didn't mention a trailer. He just needed the rig, and then he needed the rig because he was going to get some illegal aliens and try to make, a big dollar. Mm-hmm. I think, I don't know if I mentioned it on one of the last shows, but I think a guy that had gotten caught in Houston recently had told me it was like $1,000 to $1,800.
Yeah, you did mention it, I think, a week or two ago.
Right. So, like, you got this. What's so funny is, how would one even find the illegal network to go about, trying to go and get some, like you couldn't just go down across the border and go, hey, you guys want to get to America? Hop in, right? And then go searching for someone to buy them. You know what I mean? They have this network.
It just sounds so horrible.
Yeah. So anyway, long story short, this poor guy, well, I don't feel bad for the guy in a way because, I mean, who the hell would rent their truck out to some stranger just because you have a CDL? And he even said lesson learned, but his truck was impounded for 6 months.
Wow.
And there he is having to make payments, insurance, all this if he wanted to keep his truck, right? Mm-hmm. He had to pay for it for 6 months. And I don't know if he didn't say if it was a brand new truck. I think it's a used truck because brand new trucks are around $3,000 a month.
Why would he not be able to get his tractor back sooner? Like why would it have to be impounded for so long? Is that when he found out that it was already impounded for 6 months?
No, he found out, within so many weeks when they trace. Remember, the guy paid for 3 weeks, so the guy was making successful alien runs till he got caught, right?
Right.
And so then when he got caught, maybe a week later is when they contacted him. And so it was probably only in impoundment for about a week when they mentioned it to him. But because of the illegal process, or not the illegal, because of the due process and everything that they have to go through, you just don't get your impounded vehicle back, especially if it's involved in something like that.
Okay. See, I'm not familiar with the illegal legalities.
Well, I mean, you got to realize one thing. What do you think? First off, what do you think that what are they called? ICE or whatever, the ones that deal with illegals.
Yeah.
What do you think they're thinking? You know what I'm saying? They're probably thinking, I wonder if the mastermind is the owner of the truck. You know what I mean? It's like, how weird is that? How could you not know your truck, if it wasn't reported stolen, how could you not know your truck is smuggling illegals?
They probably know like the certain ones that are involved in the network though too. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't agree with that. I would tell you that detectives, cops, they are suspicious of everybody. Everybody's a suspect until proven innocent, the way they work. And my guess would be they were probably had to at least
watching him and stuff.
Well, at least had to clear his name.
Right.
You don't just go, oh, okay, come pick up your truck. We already cleaned out the aliens out of it. Come get it, sir, without at least suspecting the guy. Because again, if it wasn't reported stolen, right? And there's your truck being driven by a smuggler. You put two and two together. The first thing I'd be thinking if I was a detective is, we got to see if this guy's involved. And then what they probably did was went and checked with all the ads and made sure, yes, this guy did run an ad. And yeah, we see the phone records where they never met before. There's no contact. And they probably cleared him in that manner. But it doesn't just happen in one day. They don't move fast for you. So if you ever rent out your truck, I would be really cautious and careful. They have apps now where you can do like vehicle swaps. You can literally let rent your car out.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, remember Tyler was telling us our son has a big Duramax 4-wheel drive, and he actually had his on that app he said I rented it out for a week, and I forget what he got paid, but you can go on these apps now and rent stuff out, but you don't know what the hell people are doing with your vehicle. You don't.
No, you don't know. I mean, you can only get it detailed so well.
Exactly. You don't know what kind of crimes they might be. I would never rent my vehicle out to anybody. I just wouldn't. I mean, that's insane. But anyways, thank the Lord that this guy, was cleared, got his truck back, and he's leased on to somebody now working. But yeah, it's a nightmare having to pay on a truck for 6 months and probably knowing you're being investigated.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's something that you have to make sure of. Like, can you imagine if they go through any questions? Have you ever been involved in any crimes? No, but my truck was. Can you imagine going through anything? Yeah,
you'd almost have to wonder if, when people do a criminal background on this guy now, will his name come up under something?
I don't know. I mean, but even DOT, when they pull the tractor over, they run these types of things, and just the license plate alone, it could just, if they kept any form of record of that, it could come up. I would say, You know
what I find amazing also, like with AP, these guys that are actually taking a chance and smuggling. And by the way, they have this new X-ray machine now that you have to drive through. They just opened it up at the I-35 crossing. I just seen that the other day. It looks really crazy. But what's really weird, you would think with a lot of these guys getting caught that it would deter the guys in the future from doing it, but they just get dumber. I mean, and listen, if you're listening, we know, I'm sure there's somebody listening right now that might actually be doing it. You deserve to be caught, and what's funny, you might have gotten away with it a few times, but the day you get caught, number one, it's an automatic lifetime suspension of your CDL. You know that, right?
Right.
They made that law 3 years ago. And number two, you are going to prison. You're going to go to prison for quite a while. You know, even if it's 3 to 5 years, you're going to prison. And to me, $1,800 per smuggle is not worth it. You know what I mean?
It's not worth Bubba being your friend.
Yeah. If you brought 10 illegals into the country and got $18,000, is $18,000, like if you were rolling the dice and the dice on one side said $18,000 and the other one said 18 years in prison,
right?
Would you roll that dice?
Even if it was 18 months in prison, it's still not worth it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go to prison for 18 days.
No.
Or 18 minutes even. You know, that's just the way I feel about it.
I agree.
My uncle was the warden up in Grafton County, New Hampshire for 30 years or something like that. And we went to visit him, my cousin and I, once. And for a joke, you know, they were showing us the cell. And when I walked in, he locked me in it. You know what I mean? And this was the one chamber. And I'll be honest with you, man. I was like, it was like, because I had never been in jail before. And I know there's guys out there going, oh, it's nothing. Well, to me, it was something. You know what I mean? I was like, because I don't want to be confined, locked into where I can't walk out and go outside and do something.
You don't like being controlled at all anyways.
I don't like being controlled by anything, you know. And for me to be in a prison cell to where I can't walk outside and do what I want to do every day, that would be a nightmare to me. Just that part alone, not to mention, like you said, Bubba, you know, all that other good stuff. So anyways, advice, don't rent your truck out. That's really good advice.
I think it's a very logical advice.
You know, and most likely, just going back to that for a second, most likely, hopefully you had a good legal contract written up, hopefully by the proper, you know, maybe a lawyer or whatever, in order to make that. And this guy seemed pretty organized. So I would guess he probably did have a contract, which probably also, you know, helped clear his name. So I would just give everybody advice. I just wouldn't rent my truck out to anybody I didn't know. I just wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't either.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on.
Do you want to take a break?
Sure.
A little break? All right, we'll be right back.
Attention trucking companies and truck drivers. If you need help with cash flow, we've got help on the way. Turn to Tab Bank, the bank that knows trucking. Tab Bank has been in the business of helping truck drivers and trucking companies with their cash flow needs for 25 years. It's just that simple. It's what they do. But they don't stop there. Tab Bank helps grow your business with their invoice, factoring, and banking services. What a plus that is. Before you book your next load, play it safe and contact Tab Bank to get their help with your factoring needs. Tab Bank helps determine the credit worthiness of your customers as well as billing and collection efforts on invoices that you factor with them. Let the experts at Tab Bank get you cash quickly for the loads you deliver. Again, it's what they do. Visit tabbank.com/TalkCDL to learn more. That's tabbank.com/TalkCDL. Tab Bank member FDIC.
If you're a driver looking for a new trucking job, check out NCI. NCI offers the following: new Kenworth T680s, competitive wages, solo, team, and students welcome, plus a full benefit package for you and your family. Check them out today at 888-311-7076. That's 888-7076. And tell them Talk CDL sent you. All right, we are back. You had mentioned that driver in Iowa that had gone missing.
Yes.
And they had found him, you know, obviously they found him like, what was it, like a week or two later or a couple weeks later?
Oh, no, it was a little
couple
while.
Months. Yeah. And this was in the dead of winter. He had his truck was just sitting in an intersection or on a back road, and he was missing. And so, of course, right away, speculation and rumor starts, aliens and all this other stuff, abducted, blah, blah, blah. But come to make a long story short, they had found the driver dead, of course. He was deceased.
Not far from his tractor even. They found him like in a field not far where they actually already searched. So it was really upsetting that they...
Well, the reason that we're bringing it up is because, I didn't think, but you had mentioned to me that, hey, the autopsy results are in.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I guess they would want to do an autopsy, but I didn't realize it hadn't been reported. So you've got this report. What do you got?
I do. So according to the Sac County attorney, the medical examiner determined that the cause of death was hypothermia in the setting of acute drug, which was meth, intoxication. The manner was considered accidental. They don't see any reason to think that there was foul play involved in it. But what they found out was that they uncovered that he had been trucking for nearly 30 consecutive hours with little to no rest, motivated to support his business and young family. They said the combination of severe sleep deprivation and the meth used to believe to have induced a medical emergency, causing him to abandon his truck and ultimately succumb to the elements.
Craziness.
It was 5 months he was missing, by the way.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize 5 months.
Yeah.
But, okay, so much comes to mind there. It makes sense when you said, okay, so methamphetamines were in his system, and then you added that he had gone 30 hours with no sleep.
Right.
Okay, so it reminds me that alone, just no sleep, makes you nutty. I was 18 years of age, and I was working in New Jersey. I'll never forget this. It was called Jetport, New Jersey, and it was at a time when, like we're in now, where it's like the country is really hurting, economy sucked, and so there was this ad in the paper for working on the strikes at the ShopRite stores in New Jersey, because they were on strike. And so they needed people to come in, and they were paying really good money. And so I went, I was 18, to Jersey. They put you in a hotel and you work. Well, I had worked, they were 12-hour shifts. I had worked 2.5-hour shifts, 2.5 shifts. And I had a headache, and I'm 30 some hours into this. And I'm just, standing there in the ShopRite as a guard. And I had a headache. They gave me Excedrin, which has a lot of caffeine in it. And I literally didn't know what I was doing because I was nuts. I was wacko. I'm just saying, you're laughing.
I am. I'm like, well, that's nothing new.
No. I mean, I literally was I didn't even know what I was doing. A lady walks up to me, and she was Spanish, and she's like asking me about something 4, and I thought she was saying, can you show me where aisle 4 is, right? But here it was a street she was asking for. Well, because I was just irritable, I kept telling her it's right there, and she kept going no, and she kept trying to explain, and so I walked her over. But I yelled at her. I said, are you stupid? It's between 3 and 5. Can't you count? And I was like really rude to this lady. But it was because I was honestly didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah, I think most people can associate with having, when you're deprived of sleep or food, you really get, they had the term hangry.
Right. Well, so the manager comes out and he takes me, and they realize this guy has been literally 30 to 40 hours here without even going to sleep, guarding the store, and no food, just drinking caffeine. And now I'm on Excedrin. You know what I mean? I'm on this crazy buzz of caffeine with no sleep, and I'm yelling at people. I don't even know what I'm doing. And so they just put me in the back. There was a cot, and they put me down there to lay down, and then they sent me back to the hotel. I slept for a day. I mean, I literally slept for a day. I was just that burned out. So I understand this guy, he's on methamphetamines. Mm-hmm. He just stops his truck and walks into the woods.
Well, they say it could have been a medical emergency. So what could have happened is he could have gotten like loopy, where he thought something was going on, or his heart could have been racing. You don't know. We don't know what it could have been, but they said that they believe that there was some form of medical emergency that made him get out of his truck. He might have just been hallucinating, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, in all sincerity, I'm just telling you, from my experience of doing something that I would never do, Okay. Just that weirdness. I'm glad I wasn't driving or doing anything where I could have, been.
That needed more focus.
I'm glad I didn't have like a weapon in my hand or a gun or something stupid.
Like when I was Billy Clubs, smack her upside the head.
Yeah, you just don't know when you're out of your mind. I'm telling you, I guarantee you the prisons have people in them that for a moment they were on something or sleep deprived and they did something stupid and hurt or killed somebody, and they would never do that. You know what I'm saying? That's something they would never do. But because of, I'll tell you, the big part, it probably wasn't the meth and it probably wasn't the caffeine for me, because I love caffeine. You know that. I drink coffee and love chocolate. But the bottom line is, it's the sleep deprivation. It's called sleep deprivation, right?
Yeah.
Sleep deprivation will make people do things that they don't even know who they are.
Yeah, you have to shut your body down at one point. And then, that's why when people that have insomnia, they have to, generally, if they cannot get to sleep, they'll medicate them, because if your body don't go through a reboot cycle, it messes with not just your brain functions, but your organs and everything. You get a lot of screwed up ways of doing.
Now, go to the whole trucking industry to where you've got trucking companies that will reset e-logs. I'm serious now. It's a pretty known fact that there's a lot of companies out there when there is a lot of freight, and people need to get these guys running, they adjust their logs. But the problem is, you're taking a driver, because I've done it. I've driven literally 1,800 miles. Okay, I've driven it without going to bed, and I've driven several 1,000-mile trips, and I even drove cross country just about with no going to bed. The problem is, trucking companies, what you're asking your drivers to do when you are doing that, you're taunting them with a couple extra bucks, maybe their job, but you're taking them to sleep deprivation. And now they're in an 80,000-pound rig, and not everybody can handle. I know there's drivers out there saying, well, no, I've driven plenty. There's guys that tell me they drive 4,000 to 5,000 miles in a week, and I believe them. I know that there's guys that can do it.
Their body's accustomed to not resting.
Well, but there's just a time, though, where all of a sudden the caffeine mixed with no sleep can make you do something psychotic.
Oh, yeah.
And so, when you ask drivers to run over on their logs like that, and then all of a sudden maybe they're overdoing the coffee because they're thinking, well, I got to stay up, so I'll just start drinking a lot of this coffee. And especially if you don't have food in you, that even makes it worse, because now all you're doing is just your body's just absorbing caffeine, and it's trying to fight keeping you awake. And then all of a sudden now you really aren't who you normally are. And I wouldn't want to own a small trucking company, because it's the smaller ones that do this. Your really big trucking companies, they most of those guys would never, at least today, in today's market, they wouldn't do it. I don't believe they would, but back in the day, they were all doing it, okay, when we were on paper logs. But now that we're on more stringent ways of being caught, your smaller companies are the ones that are doing this, and they are the ones that are going to get in a lot of trouble if one of these drivers wrecks or kills somebody because they have no sleep, and you just wanted to make a couple extra dollars to get your freight delivered. That's a dangerous situation. You're putting yourself and more for that driver in.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%.
Yeah. So anyways, sorry to hear that, prayers for the family. And I guess it's good to know that it wasn't anything, what's the word?
Nefarious?
No, nothing nefarious was going on. Just one thing I'd like to add. In this past week, my cousin died, and he was 53. And when he died, they found some traces of fentanyl in his system. And so my aunt had died in Danville, Pennsylvania. So my aunt had his body transferred down to Schuylkill County. And when he got down there, I guess the coroner from Danville, they have jurisdiction. Whatever county you die in is the county that the coroner has jurisdiction in that county, and they have the right to the body if they suspect something. Well, anyways, they went right away when they found out that the body was transferred. They went and retrieved the body back up to Danville, because it was ruled a suspicious death. So all I'm saying is here's yet another person that was found, and I'm glad for the truck driver, but now we're going to find out. I just wanted to mention it, about my cousin. His name was Jerry, and but that's
I think a lot of people don't realize that those people have the authority right away, and until the case is closed in the matter, speaking just like the driver or the owner operator that had the tractor, until it's closed out, you don't have the rights to it. But you have to understand that, they're not gonna, that everything's gonna be still taken care of as far as, the body. I don't want to sound really bad, but they're going to keep them refrigerated. They're going to keep them taken care of until they close it. And it's better. Think of it this way. You might want to make closure, Karen might want closure as far as getting everything taken care of, maybe have a funeral, but to make sure that it wasn't done in a mischievous way, that something didn't happen to him purposely like that, I'd rather wait months to make sure than to find out that, I went through all of that and then later found out that there was those questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there was a homicide or something, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's move on. I've got just one little thing I just wanted to kind of bring up. Just something we came up with, like reading through articles and everything. Top 10 concerns in trucking today. The top 10 concerns in the trucking industry. And this really is in no particular order. But I'm just going to, whip them out and we can talk about it. Cool?
Cool.
Okay. Number 1, driver shortage.
Good driver shortage.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say that.
Yeah.
So you're on the same wave. We're sometimes we use the same. Exactly. Sometimes we use the same brain.
Mm-hmm. I have the better half.
Okay. So driver shortage. It's always been a concern. But like you brought up, a good driver shortage. The one thing that we know dealing with a lot of trucking companies is if trucking companies could hire every driver application that came to them, there would be no shortage. But a lot of drivers just don't qualify.
Right.
To drive. And it's not the good drivers. There's many of you guys out there that are really, really good and you qualify safety-wise and all this other stuff. But in bad times like we're in right now, when bad times are and companies don't have a lot of miles to give, the drivers that have 8, 9, 10, 11 jobs in the last 3 years, they don't get hired. SAP drivers aren't getting hired. Drivers with accidents. If they can't, in really good times, they'll verify. They won't even verify all your references. They just want to bring you in because safety and operations is saying, pull the plug, turn the green light on, just bring these guys in. Well, now, because they don't have a lot of miles to give you guys, they're taking their time approving or denying these applications. And that's a fact right now. What, you had something?
Well, you mentioned about the drivers that might have had a lot of jobs. See, there's drivers out there that are good drivers.
Correct.
But they might have 4 or 5 jobs in the last year or the last 14 months. And companies don't want that because the standard rate of hiring a driver, between going through the cost of advertising, the cost of running all their information, the cost of bringing them in for travel, the cost of hotel, all of that comes into a lot of cost for these companies. And if a driver's going to leave them within the first couple weeks, they've lost money, not really gained much, because it takes a few weeks just for that to start equaling out. So that's why companies aren't going to hire. Even if you're saying, well, I'm a really good driver, I don't have accidents, I never fail my SAP. None of that stuff. It's just you have too many jobs and you're not being very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Loyal?
Not loyal. Not
tolerant?
Not responsible. It's.
Well, listen, if you're a truck driver, and especially if you're a new guy coming into the industry, one of the things you better get in your head is there's a lot of crap you're going to have to put up with.
Reliable. That's the word I was thinking.
The trucking industry comes with a lot of crap. I mean, it really does.
It does.
A lot of pressure, a lot of crap, a lot of disappointment, but it's still a lot of reward, okay? But if you're mentally not prepared, I believe there's a lot of drivers that shouldn't be drivers. Just being honest. Not everybody with a CDL should be a truck driver, because the statistics show that 3 out of 4 truckers get their CDL and don't even make it 6 months and never drive again because they realize it wasn't for them. So if you're coming into the industry, build your mind up knowing that you got a lot of crap you're up against. A lot of drivers have the attitude of, I don't take shit off nobody. Well, now in bad times right now, nobody's taking those drivers. There's a term right now that they're using. It's called, I'm hiring my own turnover. That's what they're saying. Like, I talk to these companies and they're like, yeah, look at these guys that are applying right now. If I hire these guys, I'm hiring my own turnover. And a lot of guys, they try to hide their companies that they worked with and got fired. And guess what? What's happening there is, they run DAC and they run PSP. If you're inspected, that's going to be on your PSP. That means you can't leave it off your application because trucking companies are now going to say, well, he falsified the application. So I would just take advice. No matter where you go right now, drivers, there's going to be crap. Everybody's got crap. So put up with it and stay strong. That's what would be my advice to you guys out there. I know you are going through tough crap, but stay strong, okay? Number 2. Truck parking, still a big time bad thing, and really ELDs have really messed up truck parking, because once a driver starts his log, blah, 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 most of these guys end up at the same time running out of hours at the end of the day. Right. And that's why a lot of times your truck stops really do. I met a lot of drivers, well, not a lot, but a handful of drivers recently that told me they love to drive at night for the simple reason of being able to park and, not having a lot of traffic on the road. So truck parking, number 2. Number 3, freight rates. That's a big concern right now. I was talking to a decent mid-sized company that has probably under 1,000 trucks, which I guess you can call them a large company, and they just lost a big account. And the reason they lost a big account is because a bigger company, okay, I won't say the bigger company's name, that is out of, I think, Utah, cut the rates on this particular shipper. And see, the sad part, here's really what's really sad. You go into the grocery store today and your grocery bill is triple. Okay? It ain't double. It's like triple of what it used to be. It's just disgusting. All right?
I agree.
2 years ago, the things I can go in to Walmart for a couple little items and it would be under $20. Now, a lot of times it's 40 some bucks. Okay? $50. It's just disgusting. Well, the problem with shippers, and this is really, and you shippers out there, I don't care who you are, you guys are also part of the problem. Because you know that these trucking companies are desperate for freight, okay? So you start a bidding war and let them slice each other's throat. And then you hi-fi in your $1,000 penny loafers and your $500 ties in the boardroom thinking you just saved a couple dollars. We did great, but you just sliced everybody's throat. All because you demand these trucking companies to give you a lower rate in a freaking market where everything else is more expensive.
Getting a little worked up there, babe.
Well, how ridiculous is it? You got everybody's paying more cost. Insurance, I'm being told insurance, which is another one. We could just say insurance also. Insurance is a huge concern right now in trucking. It's going through the roof. Unbelievable prices these trucking companies are being asked to pay, okay, for insurance. And yet, cost is going through the roof, and these shippers have the balls to ask these trucking companies, we need a cheaper rate. Well, then bring your freaking prices down in the store. If you want the trucking companies to pay less, okay, or I'm sorry, to be paid less to haul your crap, then your ass should be bringing the prices down in the stores so everybody else, but the prices aren't coming down.
No, people aren't being able to afford some of this stuff. You have people that never had to go to welfare are now starting to go on and see if they can get food stamps because they can't afford it now on their normal blue-collar income.
Yeah, so the next time you're high-fiving in the boardroom, just remember, nobody really cares for you guys, honestly. Anybody that is squeezing other people, there's zero respect for you. You think because you're in the business world and you save your company money and you make your bottom line's making more. Okay, it ain't always about making that extra money if it's killing other people. I'm telling you, that's just my opinion. All right, it's my opinion, and I don't believe that that these companies, I'll tell you, this is what deregulation killed. Okay. This is what deregulation killed. And yes, I believe in free enterprise and free market and all that stuff. But my gosh, do you have a conscience?
I got a conspiracy theory.
What is it? Let's hear it.
Well, think about it. If the insurance companies are raising their rates to be so hard on these trucking companies, and then now the shippers and these companies that are shipping their freight are trying to cutthroat, do you think that might be some of the things that are trying to say, okay, well, let's get these driverless trucks going because we can cut our rates. We don't have to pay a human, cut the rates down, and then the insurance will be like, okay, it's how robots are. They're more reliable than a human.
Well, I mean, your theory could be pretty on for the simple reason we haven't seen times like this in my lifetime where all of a sudden, well, I think back in the Carter eras, they said like inflation went through the roof back in the 70s. So gas prices were insane back then. I mean, just like $3 and $4 a gallon back then when nobody was making, you know what I mean? But $1 something for minimum wage. It was insane. But anyways, let me go down the list here. I'm getting too wacky on freight rates. Driver pay, another one, right? Trucking company I talked to the other day, they said, listen, nobody's giving raises to drivers right now. And I believe that. In fact, if you look at a lot of the driver pay driver pay has gone backwards. It really has. Mm-hmm. A lot of these guys are, I was talking to a driver yesterday. He had called, right? And we're just sitting there BSing. This guy, I'm trying to think of the name of the company he's working for. Oh my gosh, what was the name of that company? But he's getting paid 47 cents. 47 cents a mile. Exactly. And this guy's got like 5 years experience. Hey drivers, are you sick of watching the other drivers bypass the weigh station while you are held up going through yourself? Well, download DriveWise today at www.drivewise.com. That's DRIVEWYZE.com, and start bypassing the scales yourself. If you're a small carrier, an owner-operator, or even a big fleet looking for something better, check out DriveWise today. And remember, there's no equipment, no transponders needed when you're using DriveWise. Check them out for a free download at www.drivewYZE.com. Drivers, if you're looking for a local, home, everyday driving job, apply with Carter Lumber today. They have positions for Class A and Class B local drivers. They can take experienced drivers, students, and non-CDL drivers. With over 160 locations, chances are they have a position for you. So go to carterlumber.com/talkcdl and apply today. Again, that's carterlumber.com/talkcdl. Thank you. Truck Parking Club is a network of instantly reservable daily and monthly truck parking locations throughout the U.S. Truck Parking Club helps connect truckers to truck parking locations throughout the U.S. via truckparkingclub.com. Our networks is made up of property owners that have locations adequate for truck parking to list on the platform. This includes trucking companies, storage companies, CDL schools, trailer leasing companies, real estate investors, truck parking operators, and more. Go to truckparkingclub.com today. Driver wages are just going backwards. But yet again, and they're wanting shipping rates to go down, but yet their prices will not go down.
Isn't it crazy that the driver rates are going down like that? The drivers pay when they do so much, but yet McDonald's workers are over $15, $17 an hour just to start.
Crazy. I'm just saying, it's the people making the money more than anything are the makers. Honestly, the ones that are producing the stuff, their prices don't go down. The only things that do fluctuate are things like beef and chicken. The
perishable.
Yeah, those pound prices, eggs, milk, they fluctuate. But these manufacturers that are putting stuff out in the stores, I'm not going to say that all of a sudden sales don't happen and you can get better deals. But I am saying that they're not going to bring their prices down to where it meets the big throat cut that they did to the trucking companies. So, anyways, let's go next on the list. You ready for this? This is a big one. Robots taking over.
No.
A lot of people in the industry are concerned. Well, I mean, they should be concerned. Look, you walk into McDonald's and it's like you have to order with a kiosk most of the time.
Yeah.
I don't like McDonald's to begin with, but you know what? That's one of the reasons I don't even go in there, let alone their crappy food. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they're afraid. And of course, in trucking, autonomous trucks. So that's pretty much a robot, and everybody's worried about it. It's a big concern. Is this really going to happen? So I guess the future remains to be seen. But again, and you know what it comes down to? It comes down to the guy that wants his stuff delivered cheaper.
The money.
It goes right back to the manufacturers. You know what's funny? All you trucking companies that are investing in autonomous trucks, seriously, think about this. What's stopping, like, say, General Motors? If you're a trucking company, right? And all of a sudden you order all these autonomous trucks, what's stopping the manufacturer now from getting their own autonomous trucks and just hiring an operations manager instead of, going along? Like, I think it's JB Hunt and Swift and a bunch of companies that are working in Texas right now with autonomous trucks. I would laugh. In the end, we would all have the last laugh if all their shippers went and just got their own autonomous truck. Why would they need the trucking company? If you just need an operations manager and a staff that can handle the trucks, you don't need the trucking company. What the hell do you need the trucking company for? I would laugh if the trucking companies that are investing in autonomous trucks got their own throats cut for trying to deal drivers out of the industry. I would laugh if you guys got your asses handed to yourself on a plate. I would laugh.
Well, the people that are promoting that, like, are standing behind it, think about it. An autonomous truck doesn't need a recruiter.
No.
Doesn't need payroll.
Doesn't need a dispatcher.
Doesn't need medical.
Just needs a programmer.
Exactly.
It doesn't need 99% of the trucking staff.
And the safety director, what are they going to be doing? Really, there's not a lot of. Yeah. They cut everybody out.
Exactly. Sorry, I almost cut you off there. I'm really pumped on this, but yeah, you're making me think even more. So you big trucking companies that are all pumped up on getting these autonomous trucks, 99% of you aren't even going to be needed at that trucking company anyways.
No, they're not, because they won't need a whole bunch of the safety. And when it came, for a safety director, because they're not going to be needed. They might still have to stay with compliance as far as certain things, but maintenance could do that.
Ruthann, they're going to be around the water cooler at JB Hunt this week, and they're going to be going, "Did you hear talk CDL?"
Yeah, right.
They're right. We're not going to be needed once they get these autonomous trucks. They're all going to be talking, and then the JB Hunt top dog's going to have them in a meeting. Go, "Don't listen to those talk CDLians. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. All your jobs are secure. Trust me.
Don't worry, recruiters. We need your department still.
Hey, trust me. Wink, wink. Yo, tell them anything. Just tell them until we get the autonomous trucks in, and then we'll say, "Oops, I guess we were wrong." You guys are so stupid. Everybody that invests in autonomous, it always ends up taking somebody's job. But anyways, we'll wait for that day and we'll have a laugh together. Okay. Okay. Don't listen to those talk CDL people. They just want their podcast ratings to go up. Don't listen. From now on, we're putting out a memo. No more talk CDL in this office. If we see the words talk and CDL together, you are terminated. You're out of here.
So wear our hat.
We do not endorse talk CDL. Okay, so the next one on the list is Seriously, more and more and more and more DOT regulations. It's just never quit. It's just one after the other after the other. I was talking to a trucking company the other day. He was telling me how they don't hire drivers like a lot. At one time, you could literally be a trucker for 20 years and then take 5 years off and walk back into the industry, and everybody would hire you. 99.9% of these companies now are afraid to hire that guy because he's missed the last 5 years of all the new regulations. He's got to be retrained because all the crappy and all you're still doing is driving a truck, okay, and delivering loads and then going home. But yet this industry is so pumped up on regulating the trucking companies and the truck drivers and all the rules out there, of course, because they want to make money, that it's just insane. And so that's one of the big worries also. Next one, safety concerns. Honestly, more and more, and I that one I can understand. They're always worrying about, what's safe, what's unsafe. I'll just move on. Next one is driver distractions. That's a big concern.
Yeah.
They're always trying to figure out, okay, how do we keep these guys off their phone? How do we, and it's funny. I think there's some companies now, when you hire on, you have to download an app into your phone. Then that app tells them, if you have done anything, picked up your phone. They do have apps now where trucking companies are saying, listen, when you guys come work here, you will have this app on your phone or you will not work here. The problem is if the driver picks up a burner phone, then they don't know. But if they have the inward facing cameras, which is another big concern, then they would know this. And I'm telling you, I really believe that it's not going to be long where that's a regulation. And DOT says from now on, everybody has inward facing cameras. And don't you drivers out there think that won't happen, because it will. Okay.
I know it will. But here's another thing. If drivers would realize, it's not all drivers that are doing this, but those bad drivers, the ones that want to get away with everything, the ones that really shouldn't be a trucker, those are the ones that are really causing a lot of this to happen to them with the inward-facing cameras, the apps to make sure that you're not on your phone. Because you've got drivers, we did an article a couple years ago of the driver that strapped his phone to the steering wheel so he could YouTube the soccer game. Remember that? Those drivers are the ones that are ruining it for the other ones. The bad guys always ruin it for the good ones.
Well, I 100% agree with you. What's that old saying? One bad apple
spoils a whole bunch.
Right. Michael Jackson sang that. One bad apple spoils a whole bunch, girl. I don't care if they say. Anyways, so bottom line is, you're right. It is the ones that screw up. By no means do we have disrespect for good drivers. In fact, my heart is in trucking. My heart is, I grew up around some really good truck drivers that knew what the hell they were doing. These guys could change a motor in 5 seconds. They knew everything about trucks. They knew everything about everything. And yet we're still willing to learn. And they taught me a lot. And I'll be honest with you, they're awesome. There's a lot of awesome drivers, but it is those guys that don't give a flying rat's ass. I was talking to a driver yesterday, and he literally was telling me he's a bull hauler. And he said, he goes, you know who I am? I go, who? He goes, I'm not the guy that runs people off the road. I'm not the guy that's like tailgating somebody. He says I'm the guy that's going through cities and letting people go by me. I'm taking my time and I'm getting on the other side. It may take me an extra minute. He said, but I'm the safe guy. He says, I have respect for the public. And I was thinking, that's a good driver.
Yeah.
Just listen to this guy, this old cow hauler, talk. He drives. I think he had a W900, and he just drives and gets the job done and doesn't have anger issues. And just the opposite are the bad drivers.
Yeah, our friends, the long haul bandits, they're the ones that were trying to pull the old school trucking out and getting it to where you helped one another. You were there helping your community. You're doing things like that, like the old school truckers that used to do it.
I'm going to give you guys some advice, not to the good guys, because you already know what you're doing. To you guys that have temper problems, anger problems, you're breaking the rules all the time, picking up your phone, blah, 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 right? Start looking at your job and the people around you that are in four-wheelers. See, instead of looking at them like they're the enemy and that their jackass is always cutting you off, okay? Start looking at them with compassion and feeling bad for them and trying to help them. If you stay back and not get pissed off when they cut you off, just, hey, no problem, guys. I understand you're a four-wheeler. You don't know. They weren't professionally trained to begin with. So have a little compassion. Maybe feel sorry for them. But you always got to start remembering this when the next one cuts you off. And if you practice practice that mindset, eventually you will have a good driver's attitude. And that's where it starts. You got to start knowing that you're a professional, and you got to start knowing that the guy in the four-wheeler is not, and he doesn't understand what 80,000 pounds going over his car will do. If he did understand it, he wouldn't be risking his kids and doing all the crap that he's doing. So 100%, I would tell you, do yourself a favor and just change your attitude if you're a bad driver. You guys know who I'm talking to. Not the good ones, but the bad ones. Number 9, speed limiters. Big time worry, because right now it is literally in the makings to happen at 65 miles an hour. I'm telling you, this has been going on, and they were supposed to make a decision in May. They kicked the can down further, and they are going to. I'm telling you, these speed limiters, once DOT has a target on your back, guys, they don't let up. And this has been going on for the last couple of years. And I know a lot of you is thinking, okay, it's not going to happen, but I'm telling you, it's going to happen. And when it does, it's going to mess the entire country up when every trucker can't pass each other out. That's going to be really bad.
Well, not just that, but they're going to have a lot of cars weaving more, cutting out, going around and cutting off. I remember an article that we did where they did such a big study on, I think it was in Illinois or in Ohio, somewhere up there, where they're showing how, I think it was the one where cars can do one and trucks can do another. They said, we already have issues there. What makes you think it's going to be any different when trucks even have to go slower and the cars can still go faster? It doesn't. It's the ones that they stick their fingers in the air and they go, no, I'm not going to listen to your surveys. I'm not going to listen to the last 10 years of data that you're giving me to show me how bad it would be to do that because of what we're going through now. Those are the ones that end up fighting for it because they don't want to hear anything else that's said as far as the benefits of not having the trucks go slower, having the benefits of maybe making it more equal and not limiting the tractors because of that. I mean, there's so much that they can't do now as it is.
Yeah, if you're a four-wheeler and you're listening to this and you're thinking, I like the idea of a trucker slowing down, because you might have had a bad one on your tail at 80 miles an hour. But I'm going to tell you something. The day speed limiters come into effect, everybody is going to hate that, especially when you get on an interstate and it's just one long traffic jam because your car does 100 and some miles an hour, but all they can do is 65, and one gets by one after 5 miles, but then all of a sudden you come right up on another 2 truckers that can't pass each other, or it takes forever, and the only difference is the weight in that truck and the power of that truck, also the gearing of that truck going up hills and blah blah blah.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, it's going to be a nightmare. It really is. I'll tell you where it'll be more of a nightmare, I believe, would be on the flatland versus the mountains. Because on the mountains, if you got weight and you're going up a hill, well, the guy with no weight, he's going to be able to get by the guy with the weight a lot quicker and be able to get over for cars to come around. But if you have 2 trucks at 65 miles an hour and there's only a 10,000 pound difference or a 20,000 pound difference and you're on flat ground, it ain't going to really make a difference because you're maxed out. You both can do 65 at 80,000 pounds or at 60,000 pounds. You see what I'm saying? But going up the hills, you can't maintain it because of the gearing and the power and the motor and all the other good stuff.
The only thing I would say is when you have from a trucker, like, hey, trucker, if you have one that's trying to pass you and y'all have been next to each other for so long, one of you's got to give. And if one of you's give a little bit, it will make things a lot easier. If yous aren't, I'm talking about if yous are like miles where you can't get past. It's all you're doing is creating a lot of havoc. If one can slow down just a little bit and let the other get past, or the one that's passing, you're not getting past them, slow down and get over. I mean, it might make things a little bit easier later.
Well, it's not going to happen. Nice advice, Ruth Ann, and visions of grandeur. I agree. It would be nice in a perfect world. But we go back to what we were just talking about. You got a lot of good and a lot of bad drivers.
Right.
And those bad drivers, you get 2 beside each other going, F him. He's the one that got out there. Heck, you pass me or stay there. I ain't getting backing off. Why should I back off? I guarantee you that's what you're going to see.
Well, probably right now I'm having people say that right now.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. That's what they're going to say. And listen, this causes road rage.
That's why I said it.
Yeah. Big time road rage. And so you're going to have these guys that don't give a flying rat's butt. And guess what? There's going to be more road rage. So, I could just tell you the only thing we could do at that point is just wait and see what happens and see if they, reverse it. And then the last but not least, number 10, right now is freight. That's right now, trucking companies would rather a driver shortage problem or a recruiting problem over a freight problem. Right now, they would rather have the extra freight to where they can bring in the drivers that they don't normally hire so they can get their freight delivered because they are greedy and they don't care about anything but their money. Okay. And so the bottom line is, I shouldn't say every trucking company only cares about their money because there are some good companies out there.
Right.
I don't want companies to think that we're anti-company. We're not at all. There is a lot of good companies out there that do care, but most of them, are all about their bottom dollar, and they would rather, honestly, any other problem, truck shortage problem, driver shortage problem, but if they have the freight, they can overcome it somehow. Okay, turn recruiting up, turn more ads on, have safety approve more. You got truck problems, go rent trucks, blah, blah, blah. They could always solve that problem, but they can't solve the freight shortage problem.
Right, that they can't control that.
Right.
They can't control that, but like you said, if they can't have the trucks, they'll rent trucks. If they can't, if they need people, there's even temp agencies. If it got down desperate enough, they would hire from a temp agency.
Very true.
But freight, you can't do anything. You have to wait. It's like back when COVID hit and all this stuff shut down. They didn't have the freight then. Then it starts coming back. Or they had the freight, then they didn't have the people. They wouldn't let us work. But then when everything started coming back because people couldn't work, we had to go through that transition of not as much being built with the tractors. You know what I'm talking about, the chips and stuff. Yeah. So we had that, but it's all coming back. But the freight itself, the merchandise that they're raping us by selling, that's not there.
I 100% agree. It's a freight problem is the worst problem for a trucking company. There is no other worse problem you can have. Okay. Actually, the other problem you could have would be bad management. Bad management will make companies go bankrupt. But right now, trucking companies are defenseless. Honestly, it's a war out there. And then, of course, like I said, these shippers, all right, are literally now slicing trucking companies' throats to get them to reduce their rates so that they can make more. And in the end, they're not going to drop their prices, which really is sickening. And here you are, all these trucking companies. And listen, they're going out of business left and right. A lot of these companies are trying to hang on. Some of them are good people, some of them mismanaged. There's a lot of companies that in good times they got rich. They didn't put away for a rainy day, and they're going to go out of business. And rightfully so. If you didn't save for a rainy day and you go out of business when you could have had a nest egg, then that's your fault also. I ain't going to pull punches there. But right now it is freight is the number one problem in the industry, at least right now. We're in a freight recession. Don't let anybody kid you. This is it was funny. I heard them on the news the other day. They said, we're possibly going to go into a recession. I'm like, who the hell are you? What are you talking about?
Possibly.
We've been in a freight recession for almost 2 years, at least a year and a half. Right. It's bad. So I would tell everybody, hang on, stay strong, pray, and just sit tight. We got problems in the industry. The first 9 could be dealt with. The last one, that's a bad one. Anyways, that's the podcast for the week, Ruth Ann. Do you have the word of the day ready?
I do.
Let's hear it, Ruth Ann.
Garniture.
Dinature?
No,
Garniture.
Garniture.
Garniture. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like furniture, but garniture.
Okay.
Garniture.
Does it have anything to do with garnishing? Is it the actual, like if you're garnishing your food with like greens, you know how they decorate it? They call it garnishing. Is that the garniture? Is that the actual, like furniture? Is it the garniture?
Yes, along the lines of garnishing decorative stuff. So it is a set of decorative accessories, in particular vases. So garniture is, in my opinion, it would be like the knickknacks. You know,
what about like when you get a cocktail with an umbrella and like a little orange half, right?
But that's garnish.
You're garnishing with garniture.
No,
would that not be the garniture?
No, garniture is inanimate. Like you can't ingest it. You can't, like, it's not with food. It's decorations with.
I'm gonna invent one now. I'm gonna invent a new word for garniture for the food industry, because I believe that it should mean that.
But they have that. It's garnish.
Well, garnishing, they call it garnish. So the stuff is garnish. Oh.
Right. This is garniture.
Okay.
Meaning like more furniture, more decorative, inanimate like that. Like, yes, you can't eat an umbrella, but you're drinking the drink. This is more like vases and flowers and knickknacks and stuff.
Well, welcome to my world. My mind thinks different. Anyways, we're out of here.
Peace.
Peace. Praise the Lord.